Hello all, Game Methuselah. I wanted to start a new little series on my video channel here on movie reviews. And there's a few reasons. One, being a latchkey kid and being alone a lot growing up and having my father die when I was 13. I spent a lot of time alone and I fell in love with movies, and movies became a really, really large part of my life. My dyslexia made it difficult to read, so lots of the information of how I took stuff in, I gained from the movies. The great thing, too, is there's something about a movie that is magical. Going to a movie theater and sitting in the dark with other people and enjoying something, sometimes not enjoying something, about movies makes it really, really special. But I don't want to talk to you about blockbuster movies. I want to talk to you about movies I think you should see, because they have a story, they have an importance, and often they have really great characters, and I think they're beneficial. I got into this a little while back because AMC had a special on the A-list, and they made the movie so darn cheap that I could see so many more movies, and it really got me delving into seeing movies, indie movies, Bollywood movies, all kinds of movies I might not have normally gone to in the theater, but now I do, and I really run into a lot of movies that I like. Sometimes I go to movies just because I want to see if it's as bad or as good as the reviewers said, and that got me into wanting to do this because a few months ago I saw Shaft. And the reason I went to see Shaft was it got a half-star rating. Now, it's a black exploitation series of movies that came out in the 60s and 70s. They made a bunch of them. They weren't particularly good, but they were funny. They were tongue-in-cheek, lots of violence and sex and things when you're an adolescent male sometimes you like to see. But this movie got a half-star. Now, it had Samuel L. Jackson in it. Now, I will normally pay money to hear him read the phone book. And I get this movie might not be PC, but when I went and saw it, I said, wait a minute, it has a pretty good script. It actually was pretty funny, kind of a dark comedy. It had lots of action adventure, it had a little bit of the sex. But the interesting thing is it had a nice storyline of the grandfather to grandson, all law enforcement in some way, but how it had changed over the decades. And I didn't think that story was being represented by the reviewers at all. Samuel L. Jackson was great. The other people in the show were pretty damn good. And they had Richard Roundtree, who was the original Shaft. I mean, I was waiting for the Isaac Hayes Shaft song to come out. It was a fun movie, and I think it deserved a lot more than a half a star. Now, you more likely can't catch it in the theater now, but when it comes out, take a look at it and tell me if you don't think it was a fun movie worth your entertainment dollar. The thing I was going to talk about now, today, is a movie that just came out. Now, my friends cringe when I talk about first-run movie because I tend to give away a little bit too much, and my friends don't want to have spoilers in their movies they're going to see, and I can appreciate that. So I'm going to tell you about this movie and say, look, watch the first few minutes of my review, and then I'm going to say, spoiler, stop, and go see the movie, and then come back and watch the rest of my video. Do not ruin this movie experience by listening past the spoilers. I think this movie is really, really worth your look. It came out, just went down and saw it Thursday night. It's Quentin Tarantino's new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, I had to go see it. It's 1969, Southern California. I was a tween teenager just coming into my own, and I remember every little bit of detail that Quentin thrown into the movies. The restaurants, the radio stations, the places to go. It's got Musso and Frank's, one of my favorite little Hollywood restaurants where you actually get to go see movie stars. It had the Hollywood business in it, which I was tertially involved with and knew a lot of people who were involved in the motion picture industry. So, I think everybody in Southern California somehow thinks that they're sort of kind of in the showbiz. So it made it fun. The movie was really interesting. It takes place when two things are going on. They're at the end of a career and the upcoming of how television has really stepped up into its own and taken control of entertainment. And movies were less effective and less dynamic than really what was going on in television. The second thing it has going on is there's a backdrop of some really horrible drama, which if you've seen the trailer for it, you see the Mansons and how are these people going to work into this story. And it's going along the line with the Hollywood people and the history of Hollywood and Southern California as a showcase. And it's a really fun movie. And as I watched it and feared for this train wreck coming down the road, I just was so captivated by the characterizations that were put out by the movies. And I think you really should see it and enjoy it, and don't let anybody tell you about it. Go see it and have a good time with the movie. I think you'll be really pleased. And I think the actors in it are fabulous, and all you have to do is look at the big names. The production value is great. Tarantino is one of the only directors in Hollywood I think I would love to run a Dungeons & Dragons game for, because in many ways I think he has sort of the same feel I have for heart in a story, and he puts it together incredibly well, and I think he does a fabulous job there. So go see it. Come back after you've seen it and either tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong after you watch the whole video. Now, spoilers from here. Please stop. Don't ruin your experience by watching the rest of this video without seeing the movie. Come on back and we'll talk about it some more. So the thing about this movie, it is a great fantasy character novel. It is basically a fantasy role-playing game being portrayed on a movie. Now, it's not Dungeons & Dragons. You'll figure that out immediately. But there's definitely a superheroic character in this movie. Because as I watched it and I got to enjoy the characters, I sort of thought there was something going on. It's kind of the sliding doors. What if? Kind of, if things had only gone a different way, if maybe one thing had happened instead of another thing. This inevitable train wreck of the Manson murders of Sharon Tate and her friends. It was really, really an experience that I vividly remember from my years in 69 and 70. I mean, it was a huge story. And strangely enough, talking to people in Europe, they all remember the Wonderland thing from the 80s. Maybe it's age, but the Wonderland thing was nothing compared to the Manson murders. The great thing about it is you see two things happening. Brad Pitt does another good Dungeons & Dragons character. And since hopefully you have watched it, you get the fact that this dude's a pretty high-level fighter. Down on his luck, depending on his friends, maybe his only friend, to really help him through. But he's the real deal. And his familiar dog, which obviously you saw played a pretty pivotal point in this movie as well. But it talks a lot about friendships. The fact that when you have these kind of great characters, where nobody likes this guy, everybody thinks he's a horror, thinks he's murdered his wife. Now, they never deny it or give you any clue in the movie, but it just doesn't seem like it to me. I mean, that's what I want to believe. But you see the Mansons, and all through it, I just kept seeing this inevitable train wreck coming. And I feared that these characters, were somehow going to be minimized or cut down or whatever, until I saw the timeline on the last day, and they all went out and got drunk, and they come back to his house, and he's smoking the acid-dipped cigarette and walking his dog, and the main character goes out and pisses and moans at them when they come up in their beater car making a lot of noise because he's drunk on his butt, and he doesn't understand why they're on his private street. And then I knew what it was. I knew exactly the once upon a time in Hollywood. What if things had been different? What if it's somebody had stuck a ninth level monk character in amongst the people there, down in his luck, no money, hanging out with his friend who's having his own crisis. But the monk has got his wisdom, and he understands the way the real world is and how people might actually be, good or bad, because he's had to fight the orcs before. And when the people come back and the Manson story changes because they're pissed at the lead character here, and they want to come back and murder him because, well, he's part of the Hollywood exchange, and this guy is well-known, famous celebrity, and they think he's the one to get. Well, you saw how the movie went. You don't screw with a pro. I really, really, really loved the characterizations of all the people in this. Even the Bruce Lee characterization I thought was really great. But to see the ending like this and understand that Tarantino has a true depth of understanding of fantasy novels. Now, I've seen a lot of Tarantino movies. You guys all know he loves fantasy novels and he loves the detail. And I think this one really shined. And I was really pleased because of all his movies, sometimes I usually love them. Sometimes I walk out of there going, but this one I thought was spot on. I thought it was perfect for a fabulous little fantasy adventure of what if the good guys had a chance to be at the right place at the right time with the right skill set. I want to run Brad Pitt's character in my next D&D game. The dude was awesome. I hope you enjoyed the movie. I hope you agree with me. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do another list of movies you should see. They're all different, and everything I'm going to do is going to be based upon that. You know, I think there's some great movies out there that never get seen. Right now, there's like 3 or 4 indie movies, foreign movies that are really good. I'm going to do a quick video and just list them, why I think you should see them, and hopefully, you know, you'll appreciate it and go out and spend your dime. Now, AMC has that special going now with the A-List. For $24 a month, you can see 3 movies a week. If you go 3 times a week, that's $2 a movie. You can't get it any cheaper than that. And it doesn't matter if it's IMAX or 3D, first run, doesn't make any difference. You know, whatever it is, it's the same price. And it's just such a great bargain if you have the time or you have the inclination or both to go see movies. AMC made me really proud too. Chantel, who was an employee at AMC, was the one who talked me into this program about a year ago, and I've never regretted it because I've seen tons of movies, and she just got promoted to manager. She's really brilliant, but she's handy capable, but I think they realized how smart and brilliant she was, so they promoted her up, and kudos to AMC for forget about doing the right thing or the PC thing, doing the smart thing. So enjoy the movies, enjoy the gaming. So until I have a chance to speak with you again, fight me devils fight, for I hate peace. Game on, movie on. I'll talk to you soon.